Hey seniors, thought I better give you guys some reading notes over chapters 26 through 29, which you're supposed to read this last week. So I'm going to give you some notes over these. We're going to kind of talk about some of the things that happened, but more than that, I'm going to pose questions to you. Questions you need to be able to answer this next week if we do another Google Doc. And remember, you're still going to have reading this next week, which will be tomorrow. I'll be putting that in the classroom. So first, chapter 26, which this is leading over from 25 and a question that I asked on the Google Doc this last week, is Jake has taken up an old habit. What is it? It's obviously not positive. It may affect him negatively during the trial. So what is that habit? Second thing, we get to meet Ellen Roark. Okay, and I thought it's probably Rourke, her name, but they call her Roark in the novel, during the story, so that's why I say that. But you need to know, why has Ellen come to Clanton? Why is she contacting Jake? Okay, you need to know what law school Ellen is with. You need to know why Ellen says she needs absolutely no pay when offering her services. And then what all she tells Jake she can do for the trial. Once Ellen and Jake do decide to work together, they start discussing their political differences, which they are very different politically. But I want to know, what is the very first topic that Ellen asked Jake about? She says, are you in favor of, and she asks him this, which is something that has to do with Carly's trial. And they discuss it, and I want to know what they discuss, who's for it, who's against it, and really what the reasons are for both of them. The next thing I want to know is, what is the McNaughton rule? They're going to talk about the McNaughton rule, obviously, in these chapters, and then the McNaughton rule is going to come back up in the trial. It's really important, and that's why Ellen brings it up, and they discuss it, and then she's actually going to do more research on it and get some briefs ready for the trial. But you need to know what that rule is about. Once Ellen and Jake are done eating, what rule or requirement does Jake give Ellen for the next time that they work together? This is just kind of funny, but he tells her, hey, if you're going to work for me, here's something you have to do. I want to know what that is. The beginning of chapter 27, it's 1 week from the trial. They're already a week out from the trial. And Judge Noose is getting juror notices put in the mail, and he's having, obviously, the deputies take them around and drop them off at people's homes. I want to know, how many of these notices are they handing out? It's a pretty large number, but I want to know how many that they are handing out. During this time, we're introduced to Jean Gillespie, who is a woman who works at the courthouse. And Jake goes to see Jean. And why does Jake go to see Jean? He's asking for a favor. Jean tells him no, and he's not very nice to her about it, but I want to know what the favor is that he asks her for, because really by law she can't do it, and it kind of causes a little rift between the two of them. Who ends up saving this situation? So the whole situation with Jean and Jake are about something specific, and then someone that's one of Jake's friends, and you can probably guess who this is without even looking in the book, saves the day and gets what Jake needs, even though it's done quite illegally. This person does get what Jake needs. So instead of being angry at Jean for not being able to do this, he still gets what he needs through this friend. Ellen and Ethel do meet, which is not good. I want to know how that situation goes between Ellen and Ethel when they first meet. Jake goes to see Tank. Now remember, Tank owns Tank's Tonk, which is a bar on the outside of Clanton. So Jake goes out there specifically for Tank's help, and I want to know what he has Tank do for him and what he gives Tank that night. At the end of that chapter, at the end of chapter 27, we get taken back to Bud and Ethel. Now remember, Ethel had been telling Jake, hey, I'm worried, we're getting bad phone calls at the house, I feel like our lives are threatened. And Jake keeps telling her, oh, just change your number, there's nothing to worry about. Well, at the end of 27, something horrific happens, mainly to Bud, and you need to know about that situation. Chapter 28, when chapter 28 opens, Gwen, Carly's wife, is needing money, and she calls Jake because he is Carly's lawyer and she needs money. Now, obviously, we know from past chapters that Reverend Eggy has $6,000 sitting in an account that they have already raised for Carly and Gwen, even though Carly and Gwen have not seen any of this money. So once he receives this phone call from Gwen, Jake lets Carly know, and Carly and Ozzy actually get in touch with the Reverend. And I want to know, what do these two men threaten Reverend Aggie with that actually leads up to him giving them the money that they need for their family. There's also a new informant now that's going to be helping out the sheriff's office. I want to know what his nickname is. Obviously, this informant is inside the KKK there, and he's going to be calling the sheriff's office back and forth if anything dangerous is going to happen. So hopefully it doesn't. On pages 408 to 411, there's a conversation there between two men, okay? And it's kind of out of the blue. There's this conversation. I want to know why this is even put in the book, and I want to know what main character is in charge of this all happening and why he is doing this. This leads us to chapter 29. I want to know what the town square is like right now. What is going on? They're talking about all these buses coming and dropping off people. I want to know what's happening there on the town square, which is actually going to happen all through the trial. Lucian, Jake, Harry, Rex, and Ellen have all met. They're preparing for something. What are they doing on this day? Okay, the four of them are going through something. They're getting everything picked. I want to know what they're doing. And then the very last thing in chapter 29 that I want you to understand is Jake and Harry Rex have an argument over a man named Clyde Cisco. I want to know what this argument is about. Obviously, Jake is against Harry Rex in this, but I want to know, what does Harry Rex want to do that has to do with Clyde Cisco and just what the argument's about. Anyway, I hope you guys are still enjoying the book. I know it's hard because we're not in class together doing it, but I hope you're getting through it easily. And then if you have any questions, make sure that you reach out to me. But I think that for all of you, from what I saw from the Google Doc last week, you guys are all doing great. You probably can look for another set of questions like that this week from this week's reading. But anyway, I hope you guys have a great Sunday, and I hope you have a great week.